Welcome to the C Files, folks. So it is Tuesday, the 21st of May, 2024. Coming up this week, I've had busy weeks lately. So coming up this week, more on the book of Hebrews and the new covenant. And I'm going to do more on some news stuff, talk about that in relation to what God is doing. And tonight, I'll be doing the podcast, the TVA, the Vortex Apologetic, just so you get it. Podcast apologetic, having to do with the Christian term apologetic, meaning a defense of the faith, and vortex pointing to the scriptures. So the Vortex Apologetic podcast. If you haven't seen that podcast, look it up. I've got a few minutes before I have to go in for my CrossFit class. So, the world's not ending, folks. The world's not ending. Here we are with all of these threats being made by nations against each other, and we're still here. The sun rose this morning. Do you know why the sun rose this morning? It's because God determined that it would rise this morning. God in his providence decided that this day would exist, and that we would exist in it, and that life would continue to be lived. No nation and no humanity can override or overrule the providence and sovereignty of God when it comes to these things. So all of this stuff you see in the news, all of these threats of war in Ukraine and Gaza, Iran, Israel, Russia, Ukraine. You've got all kinds of conflicts happening in Africa all the time. Christians being attacked, and all of these things occurring. The United States apparently has now put troops into the Gaza Strip, into the Palestine area, under the idea, under the cover story of, we're going to provide aid and food and water to the Palestinians. Some believe that that's just the cover story, that the idea is to get the Israeli army, the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, out of Gaza. So I don't know. We'll see what happens when it comes to that. A lot of conflict can occur. Wrong moves, wrong thoughts. I learned this when I was in the Navy on the high seas. The captain of that ship really does have to be very knowledgeable and very smart in how he does things. Because it's not very difficult to create an international incident, right? I mean, the world is living on a razor's edge right now. And so we do need people in positions of authority that actually do know what they're doing and actually have some wisdom. The problem that we're having, and it's interesting because we've been going through Proverbs in my men's study that I do on Tuesday mornings. There's a retired minister that actually runs the study, and a number of things in Proverbs talk about the wicked ruler versus the righteous ruler, the wise ruler versus the unwise ruler. And when the wicked and unwise ruler is in power, the people mourn, and all of these, the poor are oppressed, and all of these, they go to war rashly, and they don't consider or count the cost, and all of these type of things. Then the wise ruler the righteous ruler actually, helps. They help the poor, and they lift the poor up, and they don't run to war rashly. They consider the cost. They're careful about what they do. They they do things in a very thought out, methodical and wise way. They make good decisions. And so what we're seeing today are some in positions of power around the world who are wise, and some who are unwise. And right now, unfortunately, I believe our country, the United States, is in the unwise category, and we're trying to get our way back into the wise category. We do things too rashly sometimes. Don't think things through. We just buy into whatever the propaganda is. We buy into whatever the Tavistock Institute created propaganda that's fed through the media. And one of the tricks that they use is they give conflicting views on a news story, and they do that on purpose just to keep people confused and confounded and kind of throwing their hands up and having a defeatist mentality when it comes to all of that. That's a method, a technique that's used to try and control the people. Another thing that happens is, like during World War II, when they were doing bombing campaigns, the Allies they were bombing the barracks or the areas of housing for the employees of the factories that were creating the tanks and the ammunition and all that. But they were not bombing the factories. Why? Well, because the big bankers, the international bankers, didn't want that, because they were making money off of the factories on both sides. Americans would produce tanks, the international bankers made money. The Germans produced tanks, international bankers made money. They didn't want that messed with. The love of money really is the root of all evil. It really is. And it really does push a lot of the corruption that we see in our government today. The love of money buys off politicians, bribes them, blackmails them, so forth and so on. A lot of them are bought off by lobbyists or those who pay for their campaigns to get elected. They kind of run that politician and tell that politician what to do. And the little people who are given, $20, $30, $50 to a campaign, they're kind of left out. But here's the thing. I do not believe that money will win this current campaign. The current campaign for president, governorships, local elections. I don't believe that money will, I think it becomes less and less important as time goes along, because the people are on to the scam. The people are on to the scam. And they know that money is controlling the politicians. And the people are angry about that. They're tired of it. And they're not going to vote according to the big campaign advertisements anymore. They're not going to vote according to the big money, all the flyers coming into their mailboxes, trying to push this particular candidate, the chosen candidate of the big business that is supporting that candidate, because that candidate will just bend over and do whatever the big guys, the Rockefellers and so forth, will tell them what to do. And so more and more people are waking up to that, and they're going, no more. You can spend $1 billion if you want. We're still not voting for you. Because guess what? We stopped being mind-numbed robots. We stopped believing the Tavistock Institute, and we started thinking for ourselves. And we're going, no, I don't like them. I like the guy that's like me, the bricklayer, that's actually got a little bit of wisdom. He's got some life experience, and he's got integrity, and he understands ethics, and he doesn't have a love for money. That's the guy I'm voting for. I think as over the next generation, more and more, that is going to be what will be happening in our voting. And big money, I think after this election, will be shocked at how ineffective their satanic attempts to push these candidates upon us by big money, by the love of money, how badly it will fail. I believe that God is working on our nation, and I believe that God will overrule the evil that is trying to take us down. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on the C-Files.